Moises and Marysabel, please come up on stage. Christian Gulbrandsson from the Matteo. And Ricardo Urana from Costa Rica. And Marianela Montero. Urenia, sorry. Ricardo Urenia. So, what are we going to discuss? And the idea here now is we will pass the mic to the debaters, but the whole idea is that you will be able to ask questions and argue and so on, and we will continue for like 40 minutes, I think. But the idea with this debate was to see if there is truth to the sentence, if we pay more for coffee, the quality goes up. I've seen a lot on internet, on videos, on lectures, that this is a kind of a strange claim. Just by paying more to the farmer, the quality increases. If you think about it, if you have a business, does it help to pay your employees more? Do they actually do better work? Does it increase the quality of their work? Probably not. So, as a little, to set the mood, I put a nice picture of a coffee farm. That is the neighbor of Elias Roa, Finca Tamana. Yes, and let's get started. I wanted to maybe have a producer's point of view first. So we'll start in this couch. Moises, what are your thoughts behind this claim? Does it help to pay more? Does that increase the quality of the coffee?
In my opinion, increase the quality, I don't think so. Because for us, our mentality is that coffee in cherry is perfect. When we process the coffee, it's impossible to improve the quality is inside the bean. We can try to maintain the quality or destroy the quality, but not to increase the quality of this bean. But if you pay bad for your workers, of course the quality is decreased. But if you pay better, you can maintain and you can have more stable quality for your coffee.
Yes, Marysabel?
I think a good business and a good relation for a long term is where both sides can have similar profit. So I can ask for more paying if my coffee is not going to move in your side. Why I have to give you a very high price of coffee if I know that you're going to have my coffee in stock? So I think we have to have a balance where we can share with our workers, that we can make different methods to maintain that quality that Moises said, and you can promote my coffee. For me, that is.
Good afternoon. In my opinion, well, the point is, if we just giving more money to the producer, did that increase the quality? I think that is not correct that way, because if we is talking about the poor people, some people say, "Oh, sell all the T-shirts that the humanity have, and the poor people will be rich people, and the community will be stable, and the world will be stable." It's the same issue, in the same point in coffee producing, because it's not just about money. It's about a system, and producing coffee is not the production is not just 1 year. It needs almost 4 years to have the first crop, and then you need to continue feeding the plants well. And in this position, like importers or roasters, comes and pay more. The quality needs to be shown in a long-term process, because it's not 1 year. 1 year you can feed well the plants, but if you don't continue in that process, and if you don't manage well your financing, the farm could go down, and the next year you will not have coffee at all. So something that had happened in our country, in some regions, is that the people don't invest in feeding well the plants. So when the royal leaf rust comes, a lot of plants were fertilized, or where it wasn't healthy, and what happened at that point is that a lot of people lost their plantations because they didn't invest in the coffees. So my point is that we need this a systemized process, and not just about money.
So you definitely need to pay a minimum.
Yeah.
You want to add something? No? Okay, different perspective. Joanne is an importer, has been working a lot in Africa, and that's probably quite different from Central America, I would guess.
I think it's very important to quantify or clarify exactly what we mean by paying more as well, because I think there's a market price for coffee. Are you paying more than that? There's the cost of a producer's production. Are you paying more than that? We talk a lot about paying more, but we don't really quantify what we mean by paying more. But I certainly don't think paying more alone helps quality to improve. In some cases where you also pay more for a coffee, where you inflate the value of a coffee in the market it's in by paying way more than that coffee has value, you can have the opposite effect for producers. You can sort of demotivate them to invest any further in their production if you kind of say to them that the product the way it is okay. It doesn't need any more work. So I think it cannot be without relationship and without a long-term sort of goal of working together that you pay more and you see quality improve. I think that's key.
So it doesn't help to pay 10 cents above market price if the cost of production, like with Moises' case, is around $2 per pound. Market price is $1.40.
Yeah.
And you say you pay more because you pay $1.50.
Yeah, I mean, this is not paying more. The other thing is the one very difficult thing is that a lot of producers don't know the costs of their production. And that's obviously then very difficult to manage your business, but also then it's also very difficult for us to know how we can value their product from the side of what it costs to produce. Of course, there's our side of how we can value the product based on what we can sell it for in our market, and that's also our reality, and will limit what we can spend on a coffee. But it helps to have both sides of that, what it also costs as well, not just the value in the marketplace.
So, Christian, you're a roaster. You've been working quite a lot in Colombia for the last years. How do you see, because you are paying pretty good prices, I know, to the producers, do you see that as the only motivation for them, or?
No, the short answer is no, it's not. I guess both for me and for them, it's all about relationship and trust, so we can build something together. And we also have to define what quality is. Of course, I can shop around in Colombia and buy the best quality that I can find from each year. But if I want to work with some producers or the same producer every year, I need to invest a bit, and that can mean that I have to pay a little bit more. But in the end, I will get a better result that we can work together on. So that's kind of the key for us, I guess.
What do you do if the coffee doesn't taste good?
Well, that's part of the trust, I guess. But you have to pay. You have to buy it, even if it's not living up to the standard that you really want to. But if you're working on it to try to increase the quality, to make it better every year, it could be like new drying beds. It could be like better facilities to make it better. That's kind of the risk you have to take when you are buying, I guess, if you want to do it this way.
Marianela, does paying more increase the quality?
Yeah, I think for me there is two or more, maybe a couple different type of producers. And from my experience, I think some producers think that price is very important and have it as the main thing. And some producers that are more experienced, that the ones that are here, they actually learn to value the relationships and learn from bad experiences, because I know producers that had bad experiences in the past, and then they realize how important it is to have a long-term relationship and that price is not everything. But of course, price is important and we should pay fair prices for coffees. So yeah, that's my opinion.
Are there anyone who wants to add anything?
I can just add another thing to the Colombian thing there is that one thing that I noticed is if I promise to come back and buy the coffee each year, they won't sell it to another guy that may be offering a higher price, because they know that I will come back and we are starting a project together. So it's all on trust again, I guess.
Anyone on the floor wants to say something? Not yet?
They're back.
There's one, yes. I can't see you, you're hiding. Mons! Woohoo!
Hello everyone. First of all, thank you. It's a very interesting discussion, I think. As also being a, let's say, trader or specialty trader or representing a trading company, we see that the terms on how you buy can be very important. That meaning, if you say that you want to buy something in the future, you're having a relationship with the farmer, it's probably a very smart idea to write very clear contracts on when you pick up the coffee, when the payments are coming, and what will happen if something goes wrong. Let's say that can be less quality in the drying or anything else, right? So for any of you thinking about working directly with, let's say, producers, I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think that's a pretty nice thing when it's working. But I also think that taking some time to learn how to write clear contracts with the producers on what you are committing to, because we see a lot of times people are telling producers that they want to buy this and this amounts of coffees, and then they have something happening and they might not be happy with the quality and so on, and then they don't commit. So I just wanted to touch base on that. So contracts are very important. Yeah.
Marysabel and Moises, do you work with contracts at all, or you wanna add to that? Look at their faces, huh?
And for us, like I talk like a finca al puente. For us, the contract is only paper. If the paper in some moment is nothing. It's more important for us the relation with our customer. Long-term relation. We have, since 2004, we start to work in specialty coffee. Is since this day, now, we never sign a contract. Only we sign a contract because for law we need to show the government, but not because we don't trust in our buyer or the buyer don't trust in us. We have in all our customers we have a very good relation, and when some wrong happen, because it's normal, we talk with them. If it's necessary, we travel to the place and we talk, we try to fix it. And for example, I want to tell you some history about this. Like 3 years ago, we have a contract with some customer to sell 2 bags of geisha. And we went to visit the place, And in the exactly moment we visit, we stay in this place, the coffee arrived. And we start to taste the coffee. And I told Marysabel, we have a big mistake here. Because the geisha not taste the geisha. And then we start to talk with the buyer, and the buyer called us and told us, okay, we have a big problem. Only one bag tastes a geisha. And we say, it's true. And now what we can do to fix this? And they pay the coffee in this year, the 2 bags, only either next year, because they need pay only 1 bag. But the next year, we send 2 bags at free, because it's more important the relation to the money. Of course, the money is very important, but the relation in the long term is much better to the money.
I would like to add, just to have in mind that the terms of the negotiation is something that is really important to have to be clear about the prices, amounts, and those things. As Moises said, the paper is paper. Something that you sign is a paper, but everybody in the parts are clear about what is negotiated, and in the future, all the terms, and when at the times, the prices, lower prices. If something happened, how you could manage it? Those things, I think, is really important to be clear, even if you don't sign a 5 years contract. But if you want to keep a long relationship, it's important to have the terms clear for everyone. In that case, you can think in long term, invest in the farm, ask for a loan in a bank in the country, invest in a new farm, or renew the plantations, things like that. Invest in a new equipment. Those things can improve the quality of the farm, but all the channels need to be clear, I think.
So we have one of our attendees, Ben, the super taster.
So my question is then to Joanne, because obviously I hear that relationships are super important and probably vital in Honduras, but how does that work in East Africa?
Oh, I'm the runner.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just thinking as we were talking that I think that varies wildly from one country to another, even within a country from one partner to another. But I think we have both the kind of relationships that Moises and Marysabel are talking about, where it's the paper can be there, but nobody cares for it. But there are cases where the paper needs to be there. And so sometimes it's a matter of protecting ourselves and the farmers, and also clarifying the roles between us, the producer, farmer, and also the exporting agency. And that can be important, like I say, to protect the different parties where there are issues. And that's also the value of using, like Marianela was saying, the different parts of the chain, because we don't want to be in a situation where something goes wrong, where our relationship becomes at risk with a producer. And so that's why the different parts of the industry can be important, and having very clear contracts can be important, because in a case where you don't have any of that down in paper, it's very quickly pointing fingers and who's going to actually take the responsibility for something going wrong. But where things are very well defined, everybody knows their role and where their responsibility is, where there is an error. And likewise, where using an exporting party within a country is very important, because usually they are bigger companies who have more capability to carry risks, and they can often cover the risk in that, or help to amend the risks that we are taking, or where there is fault. And that means that both us and the producer can maintain a relationship where we are not pointing fingers at each other, but we are finding a solution as partners. And I think that's quite important. In East Africa, for sure, it's a very different world. I mean, in Ethiopia, production is much higher, and you have to have contracts in place by law, and you wouldn't operate without them. In Kenya is the same. In other places, it's also like when we are having newer relationships, the contracts can sometimes be more important because you haven't developed that trust yet. So it varies a lot. Did that answer the question?
If for Moises and Marysabel, you're saying that the contracts are not too important for you, but at the beginning when you started selling coffee, do you feel the same? Or it was until you build some trust? Because, of course, I feel like, or in my opinion, I think you had to first have some experience working with your partners so that you could actually feel confident and, you know, that there was some trust. So it was immediately that you trust, or of course you had some doubts about your partners?
Maybe we think that we were blessed to have the first customer very trustable people. So we didn't feel that we have to sign. Was since the beginning with the customer that we still working with.
So, let me ask you this then. Since you say that paying more doesn't necessarily increase quality, what can increase quality?
Good question. I think we should invest in the projects we're working with. So, but wisely, because I think sometimes it's hard for buyers to know if this project is gonna work for sure for many years. Of course, it would be great if it works for many years, but sometimes it doesn't. So it's really good to actually get to know better who we're working with and maybe get some more experience with them and even give some education in the different countries we're working with, because, you know, like Joanne said, every country is different. Some countries need some more support in this field, and some others need other, more support in other fields. So I think to teach, education, and to try to invest wisely is very important.
Well, for us as a roaster, I think it's first of all get to know the people behind the coffee, exchange knowledge between each other. In the best of worlds, maybe cup together as well, so they know what we are looking for, and the other way around. I think that's the best way to get better quality.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are so many ways to improve quality, especially when you see some producers who are sort of starting out or have a lot of areas that they can improve in their production. For me, that is sort of, it produces, and from a buying perspective, I think having that open dialogue, like Christian said, cupping with the producer, helping somebody understand the value of their coffee and the buying market for that coffee. But I think, of course, increasing quality is important, but producers also need to maximize where they can make money out of their production, and not all of their production will be the best qualities. And so I think a lot of, you cannot talk about increasing quality and a producer having the ability to do that without also sort of talking about the producer being financially stable and sustainable, because they can't do that without that. They can't invest in quality without being financially viable as a business. So I think there's ways to have conversations with producers about where they should invest and where it's better to build a very high quality product, and where maybe your product, this part of your production, is never going to be 88, 89 scoring coffees. So don't invest in that part, because that's maybe leave it be, and it still has a place in the market and you can still sell that coffee. So I think that sort of having that more open dialogue about it with a producer about what the market can absorb, both in quality and what price point, I think can be very helpful for a producer to become a more well-rounded and more sustainable business. Yeah.
what I think is similar that they said, is an integrated system, because about the production, we as producers, we can continue, we can work really hard in the production, but we also need to know what is the market asking. And it's different when we don't know how the coffee tastes. And I know some people that have never tasted their coffee, even when they run our own micro mill. And what could they say? How can they improve the quality if they don't know what is the quality level that they have, or even the flavor? So in this case, an open system. I think in the long term is something really important, because it helps everybody to have a vision of or a future. And education, as Marianela said, there's people that don't manage really well the financing or the finance of the business. Coaching in that area. Also, the agronomic aspects. This is really important because there are a lot of people talking about how you should fertilize or fertilize the plantations, and also process the coffees. There's a lot of information, but nobody knows and nobody have a receipt. What I feel that could be better is like a coaching, like a partnership, and where the buyers or the market give us feedback about what the market is asking, and we as producers improve in the processing and the plantation of the coffees.
I think only when you have been falling down very deep in your life and you know what a huge problem is, you can treat that one as a jewelry. So for us, we start to work in quality, and your question is, how can I improve my quality? Is the commitment with my customer. Because for us, to have a long relationship is very important. And there is a saying, which one was first, the egg or the chicken or the hen? So you have to have very quality of coffee. So your customer will see how you improve. And then they sell, are going to see and are going to say if they can give you more. It's up to them. And we can tell you that we have never told to someone to improve, to give us more money for the coffee. It's only when they can or when they say, because I think it's the commitment with the quality.
I just want to finish with something like, I don't know if have sense in English, but in Spanish is, we need to see the money to the way, not to the end of the things. If you put your focus only on money, don't have sense the life. But if you see the money, the way you can do many things is different.
So I had previously I was working with the Hobnil in Honduras with a model where we would pay more for the better scoring coffees and less for the lower scoring coffees. But then I realized the costs were the same. So why shouldn't I just pay the same for all the coffees? And then we figured out that the money was not the driving force of him getting to increase the quality. It was actually, he wanted to improve, but he needed money in order to be able to invest. So I guess it's a kind of a complicated thing. I'm not discouraging you to pay less or pay more. I mean, you need to pay more. Everyone needs to pay more to producers, I think. But they also need education. Because I feel there's a huge gap between farmers and scientists, and the kind of knowledge doesn't travel from scientists to farmers. How do you actually go about doing all these improvements? Like, where do you get the information from, other than the buyers?
You know, in Honduras, in I don't know, in our countries, we are like slaves of the Facebook, and the Twitter, and the Instagram. And sometimes we use this only to show the people how dressed we are today. And we try to use these tools, but to have more information about the things can help to be better, not only in our lives, but in the work too. And then I follow the people, many, and I am checking and what the people in Costa Rica are doing better, for the farms, what variety is better in Burundi, what variety is better in, I don't know, what is the better process, what is the best machine, and if works, for example, the brand, if it's better to the Penagos, to the Pinalense, and which. And then we try to talk and read, because like everyone tell, the education is the more value tools we have. And then we try to learn around the coffee the most is possible.
You know, even when we always tell this history, we went to Ethiopia, and Ethiopia is amazing country that we admire. But can you imagine, we learn one little thing that is amazing help for us now. It's like a cover the African bed. Before we use a lot of stones, a lot of logs, and then in Ethiopia we saw that they use bamboo in an easy way. So are small things that you can learn from another, because every day you learn from everyone. Another history is one day Tim arrived and he was telling us that he has a customer, and he told us, I already told my customer to buy a machine to wash car, to wash very good the mill. And we say in that moment, next time he has to see one car washing in our mill, because it's not, you don't need that the people tell you. You have to catch the ideas. So when he arrived the next time, we have the machine in front of him so he can see.
Mysteriously placed very well in front of the mill. Joanne, I know in Africa most of the coffees we're getting are from cooperatives, and that can be coffees from 500 farmers or more. How do we as small roasters increase quality there? Like, maybe it's good to pay more, or what do we do? We can't go to teach all of them.
No, I think it's still about finding the right partners. The sort of structure is so vast that it's very difficult to have an impact as a single importer, never mind like a roaster, unless you find partners who are willing to carry that impact down the chain to the small producers. And it's not easy. I mean, we are trying and we are having success sometimes and we are having failure other times. But essentially, I think you have to recognize people who have the same mentality as you do, or at least going in the same direction around quality and around the importance of this in every part of the chain. I think for us, in terms of like identifying quality and managing it as much as we have control over, this is where cupping through the coffees a lot is really important in East Africa, especially where generally you're dealing with quite large lots. You don't have 20. I mean, you can have in Kenya sort of pea berries and stuff, but in general the lots are 150, 70, 200 bags sometimes. So of course, when you start to work with producers or suppliers, let's say, rather than producers, there is ways to have a conversation about how you would like them to work in the future. And as you commit to that relationship, usually people become more open, separating the coffees as they get them mulled, allowing us to cup through those coffees and make a selection. So there are things you can do to sort of keep a hold on the coffees, or keep and get an understanding of the production from a wet mill, let's say, in Ethiopia, as an example. But a lot of that work, I think, goes into cupping through coffees a lot. You know, we don't go and just cup once and say, okay, these are the 20 coffees we're buying from Ethiopia. We are cupping from those same washing stations we are buying when we go at the beginning of the season, when we know the coffees are not going to be ready for us to buy. They're not going to be interesting yet, but we are seeing how the qualities are coming out. We are cupping again when we go for actually buying. We're cupping those same coffees when we're there over and over again. To see how they hold up, especially because they are from a number of different producers, and the single sample that you're cupping there represents a lot of different coffees put together. So I think that's really important, and that's where we can manage assessing the quality of any given lot. In terms of improving the quality, it's still a work in progress, and I would say it's finding the right partners, trying to build some infrastructure where you can. And of course, we are a small company. We're only 5 years old, so we have an office in Addis. There we can start to build into infrastructure. We can start to work with suppliers in a more meaningful way. But we cannot go out to every country and do that at once. That takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. So it's definitely a long-term goal to improve quality. It's a commitment for 10, 20 years, I think, in some of these countries.
And I think for roasters also, you don't have to have relationships with all the farmers you're buying from. Maybe you start with one.
Yeah, I think even if you cannot be committed, as a roaster, even if you could say, okay, I need to have some excellent coffees, we all have that, even as an importer, we need to be able to display. For example, we are working hard in Tanzania at the moment. We need just some fantastic Tanzanian coffees because we have to show you guys that they're worth buying, yeah? But at the same time, we can recognize producers that have a lot of potential. Maybe the coffees are not fantastic yet. So we're going to work with those producers with the intent of working long-term to help their coffees get to where we see they can be. As a roaster, you can do the same thing. Maybe not everywhere in your purchasing can you say, okay, I'm going to work with this guy every year, this guy in Kenya, and this guy in Guatemala, but pick one or two and say, okay, this I'm committing to. This is where I'm going to invest and where I'm going to make a difference. And it's something, and it's important. So I think if you sort of look at it like that, do what you can where you can to make your business still work, because at the end of the day, we also all need you to be financially viable. As roasters, as importers, as producers, we all have to be financially viable. Otherwise, we have no industry to talk about improving quality. I mean, it's essential.
Anyone wants to say anything before we round off? Anyone in the audience who has a comment or? No? Yeah? Ricardo?
Thank you. And in the Costa Rica case, something that I have seen that have improved the quality in general. Well, the first thing is the facility to start a micro mill, compared with other countries, as Joanne said, in Africa, because in our country is you need to invest, but you can buy machinery, the pulping machine, dry mill. If you can process at home, you can hire other company that you could try. And the other thing that has increased the quality in Costa Rica, in my opinion, is competitions. Competitions like Cup of Excellence, where people try to make a personal an own process, own recipe, something different, better, the best process that you can have, and then you put in a table to see what happened. If the market, the people, the juries coming from the consuming countries could like this process. And this, I think, is the reason, because in Costa Rica the honey processes has increase the amount of people doing that, because in 2011, 2012, there wasn't a few people doing that, but in 2013 and 14, and even in 15, a lot of people tried to do more process like this, and it's a small country, so we can go to a neighbor and see what they are doing and not copy exactly what is the recipe, but it's easier to have more information in a hand, looking around and make the own recipe at home. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. We are running out of time, unfortunately. Did you have your hand up? No? I think as a closure, I would say that I know as a small roaster myself that you can't really do everything. And something is better than nothing, for sure. What I get from what you guys are saying is that money is not necessarily the only thing we can do, also communication. Starting to communicate more with farmers, Facebook works really well, WhatsApp, Instagram, and so on. And maybe try to commit a little bit more, even if the coffees aren't that great every year. Because eventually, if you help people progress, the coffees will be better. And that's kind of what I wanted you to take home. Because if we don't support the farmers, the picture in the backside there is the reality. There won't be any coffee left. Thank you, guys.